Hi guys, thank you so much for coming. This is going to be a really exciting panel. I know that Wednesday nights can be crazy, especially around this time, so thank you so very much for coming. It really does mean a lot to me and everyone involved, and thank you to MOVE for having me. I've been dying to moderate a panel. I hope I don't blow it. So anyway, without further ado, I'm going to bring out our panelists. The first one is a very funny actress. You can see her on my favorite television show, Silicon Valley. She's done a ton of commercials. She's also a writer, and her name is Jill Alexander. The next person we're going to bring out, she works with the SAG-AFTRA Foundation, and her name is Miata Edoga. She's also an actress and a writer. She helps teach actors about financial decisions, help that they may need. Also, we've got coming out Stephen Jensen, manager extraordinaire. He's a New York Jets fan, apparently, but he's from Los Angeles. Let's see, next up. You can see this guy on CBS's hit show, Two Broke Girls. Funny thing about him, we also graduated from college together. His name is Jonathan Kite. You can see him as Oleg on Two Broke Girls. He's a stand-up comedian and a writer as well. Don't ask. Actually, you can ask. Jordan McKirahan is an agent who's going to be joining with us tonight as well. He reps actors, works in theatrical and commercials. The next actress, she works at 200 South La Brea, so if you guys find yourself auditioning for a commercial there, you have probably had her run a session for you. You can see her on TV in a bunch of different commercials. Her name is Amy Handelman. So lovely. She went to Michigan State. Thank you guys so much for being here. Tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about the realities of making a living as an actor in Los Angeles and elsewhere, right? I believe like the subtitle of the panel was, "Congrats, you booked the job, what next?" Congrats, I think, right? It's a good thing. As we know, living in Los Angeles isn't exactly inexpensive, right? Rent is expensive, food is expensive, the bills are expensive. So we want to open up a discussion about what really to expect as an actor working in Los Angeles. And according to a source that we dug up, the city's median income is $49,682, which is more than I probably make, maybe a lot of us make. But it says you need an additional $24,689 to live comfortably. So if you round up, that's about almost $75,000 just to live in Los Angeles. And as we know, in New York, it's more expensive. San Francisco, it's more expensive. And it seems like the cost of living is only going up, right? So let's talk about living in Los Angeles as an actor. Let's talk about the landscape of the industry. And Jordan and Stephen, I want to start off with you guys, if you can give us some input. But in terms of bookings, what types of averages, dollar-wise, you don't have to get into specifics, but in both TV and commercials, when a client of yours books a job as a guest star, as a co-star, recurring, or whether they book like a national commercial, can you talk a little bit about the numbers that are associated with those types of bookings?
Can you hear me? Okay, cool. There's never a guarantee, unfortunately. Commercials, as many of the panel knows, you could book a national, you could get edited out of it, you could become unrecognizable and instantly be downgraded. You could work background and be instantly upgraded if you're recognizable. So commercials is a gamble. And more so now than ever, the agency has so many options that they don't know what they want. So it's a good thing and a bad thing. And at the end of the day, it comes down to the client. So when you're on set, make sure the clients are happy, make sure your director's happy. But at the end of the day, just be yourselves, right? That's why you were hired. As far as finances go, SAG-AFTRA has all of the rates accessible online, so you can follow along as you're paid. But once you do have some of the careers that these people have, and you do have the clout for us as agents and managers to negotiate guarantees on your behalf, that's when the money starts coming in. Or when you renegotiate a spot. For instance, we just renegotiated a United Healthcare campaign, and instead of making scale for her holding fee, she's now walking out with at least $7,000 every 13 weeks, which is a good guarantee.
I would agree.
Nowadays, usually they want to negotiate $2,500, and I'm like, we go to bat for our clients, so $7,000 we accepted. Thank you so much. But again, even then, not yet. even then, that renews, I believe, in a couple weeks. That could run for one cycle, which is 13 weeks. They could drop the spot after that, and she only receives that $7,000 guarantee. They may not hit the guarantee, in which case she doesn't receive her residuals at scale and a half. I tried for double, but no push. TV, you have your guarantees, you have your scales, you have your quotes if you're at that caliber as an actor with your resume. But even then, they don't break top of show nowadays. They have celebrities that are working for top of show because there's not that work accessible for whoever, and they will come down and work for top of show. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if you guys can speak to this, but can you? There's obviously been a shift, right? We see a lot more celebrities coming down and working on television.
Sure.
Can you sort of talk about why that is, and also about the quotes? Do you find that your clients' quotes are being met often or not?
It depends on the show. It depends on the network. It depends on the casting office. It depends on the producer. It depends on what season the show is in. We just had an offer come in today. One of our girls shot the pilot for the new Netflix series Girl Boss, and she worked Scale Plus 10 as a co-star. And so we tried to get her $1,300 quote met when they brought her back for episode 12 and then the finale of 13. And there was no push because they don't have the money. We certainly tried, but at the end of the day, it's at producer's discretion. So we would rather her be on set, right, than give up a booking because they won't honor $400-ish more than what Scale Plus 10 is. But there is a shift. We're pitching constantly some of our heavy hitters with the resumes, and the guest stars are, they have offers out for guest stars now, which is great. And then we turn around and say, well, just let us know and we'll put our clients on tape the second you don't find your offer, or, so there is a shift. I can't answer why, but it's happening. So be prepared to build your resume with co-stars and guest stars and series regulars.
Yeah, please.
I mean, my philosophy, or our philosophy, is work begets work. Okay, so you go to the opening of an envelope. No, I can do it. I don't need it. You guys can hear me, right?
Yeah, but it's on video.
Oh, sorry. I gotta hold it.
It's on.
Hello. So my philosophy has always been work begets work. So you go to the opening of an envelope. Okay, you've already got the job as far as I'm concerned. Okay, if you're going in the room, it's your job to lose. So just don't go lose it. Once you get there, then it's up to me, and I'll finesse the crap out of the deal, try to get the most money. I mean, we don't personally go below scale. I mean, that's not something that we want to set precedents on. Quotes, in my mind, are kind of bullshit these days. So I want momentum. So if whatever you're going out on, small, medium, or large, go get it. Use that as momentum to get the next one, and the next one. And don't worry about making quotas or making quotes. Just do your job. And when you do your job, more opportunity automatically happens. It's just my 20 years of doing this. I have clients that walk in, book a job and bitch and moan about it, and their residuals are bought out. I'm just like, shut up, do your work, and then the next gig comes, and the next one, and they're working nonstop. And that's kind of brash, but I believe that's a good philosophy to have.
Do any of the actors want to weigh in on this?
Do you see that? Some people were nodding. Those are the good ones.
Do any of the actors, do any of you guys want to weigh in at all? Do you guys want to weigh in at all? Or do you have any thoughts?
Hi. Yeah, I mean, I think work begets work. I think that what you want to be known as a working actor. I think at some point, you know, I just booked a film like a week ago, and the quote was scale plus 10, which is not my quote, but it's something that I believed in, that I thought that would get out there, and it's something that people have not seen me do before. And so it was worth it for me to do that because of the press and the things associated, even to be considered with the actors who are in the film, who are A-list actors, and I'm gonna have plenty of scenes with them. That's what it is. You're gonna meet the connections that you have. Quotes only exist in your mind. If you want the job bad enough, you'll take the job. I mean, if you want to hang around and wait for those quotes, there might be somebody else that beats you out to them. And because of the way everything's changing with like Netflix and Hulu and residuals and whatnot, I mean, you know, our show, Two Broke Girls, went into residuals before we even had a contract for it, because it's one of the fastest shows to ever go into residuals in the history of television. It wasn't built into our contract because they don't build it into a standard 6-year contract, assuming that it's going to go into residuals. But, you know, I enjoy working. We roll with the punches. You have good people on your team that represent you. I mean, make your thoughts and your feelings heard. But at the end of the day, the network, the people who have the jobs are going to make the decisions. And you either are okay with those or you aren't. And the important thing is, I know we all have to make a living, but you know, part of it is the work. And again, that's what I live by, is work begets work. That if you're doing stuff, it's your attitude and your energy. At least that's been my experience.
You know, I think that it is super important for us to be educated, to understand what, you know, we should know what our rates are, and we should know what the rates are for different jobs. But I also feel that if you are walking into a room already thinking about and calculating those numbers, that's desperation, that will read, and you absolutely will lose the job, as Stephen said. And so I think that we have to be smart, we have to be good business people, and we have to be financially sound, because if we're financially sound, then when we go into the room, we're going into the room to do the work. We're not going into the room already sort of running numbers in our head about what bills we'll be able to pay.
I could tell you that if you go into a room and you have that mindset that you need that, you need it, you have to pay a bill, you'll never get the job.
Right.
I mean, it'll never happen. They sense it, everyone senses it. If you're an actor, you were born with that in your body. You will be an actor until you're dead. You're not doing it for the money. Money's bonus, it's a perk. And if you have that philosophy, you will get jobs. The problem is if you know, we represent a lot of actors that have had success in the past, and they're dealing with the current landscape and not, you know, making their quotes, or realizing that the residual buyout is cutting into their premium fee and the residuals are dropped, you know, by 30 or 40%. But once they drop that baggage, just like she said, you know, you book jobs and it's about the work, and the work then pays. It's really just very black and white.
Got it. Thank you. So let's talk about some of the costs for an actor, specifically their team, your representation. You can have an agent, you can have a manager, you can have a paper fall on the floor, publicists, lawyers, things like that. It can take anywhere up to, 35, 40, maybe even 50% of your income, just on your team alone. So maybe I'll open it up to the actors. What does it normally look like in terms of your representation cost? Jill or John?
First of all, hi everybody. And do I have to touch something? Hi. Hey, congrats to you for being SAG-AFTRA actors, and also for taking advantage of what your union has to offer. So good on you for being here. Absolutely. So, I mean, I think you asked for specifics with the last question, and yes, the rates are on are on the SAG-AFTRA website. But generally, for a national commercial, I think that you can expect to take home. You can expect to take home between $5,000 and $30,000. Okay, that's a wide spread, but somewhere between $5,000 and $30,000, and you're going to pay your agent 10% of that, and you're going to pay your manager 10% of that, and then if you're paying a lawyer, you're going to pay a lawyer 5% of that, and that's the team that I have right now. So 25% is gone. That's a private matter. But then on top of that, theatrically, it just depends on what the job is, what the network is, whether it's going to run once, whether it's going to run 10 times, how the residual setup is. That's hard for me to name an average on, as far as like if you shoot a co-star, if you shoot a guest star. I mean, my very first job in LA was Unsolved Mysteries. I played a missing person who is still missing. It's so sad. But like every 6 months, I get like a $17 check. So we get to go buy like an organic chicken at Whole Foods, which is great. But yeah, other stuff. Another day, I got like 14 residual checks in the mail, all from the SAG-AFTRA residuals department. And unopened, I just like laid them out on the kitchen table and took a photo of them. And I was like, this is it. This is like our Hawaiian vacation. And it added up to $47. So you just never know what you're going to get.
I was going to say, Jill, I feel like sometimes it's even lucky if you get $5,000 for a job. Luckily, our contracts are being negotiated further. New media has thrown things for a loop, I would say, at least commercially for me, what I found with it. I think the only thing that you are guaranteed in a commercial booking is your session fee. And you'll get that. Hopefully you'll get overtime.
So if you don't get cut out.
Yes.
If it
Edit
runs,
out.
I would say
If
5
it
to
runs,
30.
Yeah, 5 to 30, yeah. Obviously, double scale national network that runs during like baseball season is the money shot. The best advice I can give, work begets work and save. It's just such a common mistake to get that first big check and then you go buy a car. What fools? What were you gonna say?
I just want to cut in real quick. The percentages that Jill quoted are on your gross amounts. So this is pre-taxes. So be cautious about what it is that you claim when you fill out that W-4 and then take that into consideration as far as what to expect from that session check or per your residuals.
Oh yeah, it'll be a huge mess too if you're not a corp and if you're booking 10 jobs a year, because each of those payroll companies doesn't know what you've earned with the other payroll companies. So the amount of tax that they take out is going to be all over the place. Is there like a tax talk? Does that happen with SAG-AFTRA?
I know that there is a finance. I mean, that's Miata. Isn't that what don't you teach a workshop in terms of financial planning for actors?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Great. Moving on. Anyway,
What's it called?
So I teach a series of classes, but here at the Actors Fund, I teach a class called Budgeting Nuts and Bolts, which is sort of the core base class, and then I teach a class called Managing Cash Flow for Artists. And that's the really important, you have to do budgeting nuts and bolts first, but that's where the meat happens and definitely where we talk about stuff like that. But one of the things that I also always say is that I think the most important financial partner that we all have is our CPA. And it's really important that not just be someone who you show up with a big box full of receipts with at the end of every year. Like, that needs to be someone who understands what you're doing and is able to advise you about legally what it is that you are allowed to do and how you need to be structuring yourself and keeping your records. So, we have to be entrepreneurs. We truly are business owners. And many of us are acting like we have hobbies, and you're running your financial life like you have a hobby. And that has to change, because hobbies don't make money. Businesses do.
Yeah, which is why I wanted John to be here. John and I went to college together, like I said earlier, and I've seen his career grow from a couple of college grads from an acting program in Illinois to now he's on one of the biggest shows on CBS. And so I guess I want to ask you sort of the changes that you've seen personally in terms of how you take care of your finances, maybe some of the pressures that you have to, like the additional costs of being on a successful TV show, like having to have lawyers and a publicist and things like that. Can you just talk a little bit about how you've handled your own business?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have anything. I mean, I had a manager and half an agent, and pause for laughter. And the thing was that you have to get these things that businesses have, that you think that at one point, if you don't, you will lose so much. And what I did was I had to take a bunch of meetings very quickly, which is something that I don't regret doing, but it compromised a lot of decision making because I needed stuff right away. And when you get on a show, especially in the beginning when they don't know the future of the show, you're working all the time. Those first couple episodes, I mean, you know, they change like completely. That we'll come in with an idea where like the horse is like something, and then all of a sudden the horse is gone and now it's a boat. And so you stay there through the rewrites and you have to work on it. And so you're having money coming in, but you don't know what to do with it because it's never happened like this to you before. And as soon as you're on break, the network is like, okay, now we're going to New York and you have to start doing this stuff. And you want people to guide you down the red carpet, which seems like a totally weird thing that the asshole at a high school theater program thinks he's going to be a star one day says. But the truth is that you have people like that because like then you get trampled and then you're just kind of sitting there off to the side because nobody trains you like what to do with any of that stuff, because it's not part of acting. It's a part of the business, like what she was saying. So I had to hire a publicist. I got very lucky. My finance person is my best friend's growing up mother, but it was somebody that I needed to trust, and I needed to start putting money away. I didn't buy a car. I've been on the show for 6 years, and we've been in a syndication for all of them. And up until last year when it died, I drove a 99 Chevy Cavalier because a very, very, very smart man, far smarter than myself, named Max Alexander, who is a brilliant representative of SAG-AFTRA, has been working his whole life, said to me when I first came out here, he's like, you're going to book a job, and then you're going to buy a car, and then it's going to get canceled. And then you're going to have to drive it back, depreciate it on the lot, and try to get a trade-in value for the bike you brought in. And so he was right. And everybody that I knew that season who had gotten a show bought a car, and almost all of them don't drive it anymore. And so I still live in the same apartment that I had lived in for over 10 years. I still have the same finance people. And the truth is, like for me, it's a day-to-day thing. Because, you know, we're still season to season. We didn't get, like, Big Bang Theory gets picked up 3 seasons at a time. And what it is, it's about investing in your future and planning it and taking time to really do that. Because at the end of the day, the show's going to be gone. Maybe we do 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. But at the end of the day, the money that you think will be there forever, it won't be. This is not Friends anymore. It just isn't. Like, all the rumors were Seinfeld. We're in such a different climate than we ever have been before. So you need to be more educated than you ever have been, and it starts now, so that when you get those jobs, you become the person who's like, great, I already have this kind of stuff set up. I have the right people in my life to help distribute this new income, and it goes away, like they said, very quickly. I'm in the highest tax bracket, and California has very high taxes. So you think you're gonna clear a bit. My parents, the biggest lie, my parents always thought I was a millionaire. And I was like, Mom, I can show you the pay stubs. I trust you. And even somebody who had nothing to do with our industry is surprised. Now, obviously, I make a great living, and I would never say otherwise. But it's never how you imagine it in your head, because money goes out the window to a publicist, to attorneys, and you need the attorney. So when they renegotiate, everyone's like, I don't need a lawyer. I got it, my agent. No, you don't. A lawyer will help you renegotiate the fees to help you get those higher things. So when it goes into renegotiation, that's important. Now, in the beginning, you might not get that renegotiation right away, but to have someone like that in your corner fighting for you so you don't have to spend energy on that, that's worth 5%. And that, it depends. I think a lot of people think I'd rather keep that 5% because I got to pay bills now. I know a lot of people that were screwed out of a lot of deals, including me. Because I'll tell you what, my agent did my deal on Two Broke Girls. It was one of the worst deals in season 1 I have, and my lawyer, who's now one of the best attorneys, he's like Letterman's lawyer, he said, I'm not gonna lie to you. He goes, that's one of the worst deals I've ever seen in the history of television. And it's because my lawyer, the thing is, look, I'm on a 6-year sitcom, I don't come here embarrassed or afraid to tell you, I'm here as a warning. You need people that are going to be there for you. And now it's not to say I wish I'd had a better agent. You know what I'm saying? If Jordan had been my guy, maybe that wouldn't have been the case. But I didn't have Jordan. I had somebody else, half an agent. And so at the time, if I had had an attorney, I could have gotten something twice what they had offered me. But the agent, it didn't have that. So it's putting together pieces and thinking about it now and looking at, talk to your friends that are successful. Talk to like your agents and your managers if you have them and find out who the successful clients on their rosters are and what they're able to do. Because what you're doing at the end of the day, you are the CEO and the president of your business. You need employees. Someday, you're not going to want to be a door-to-door salesman selling knives, which is a great profession. But someday, you're going to have to sit at home and figure out all the paperwork, and other people are going to have to go out in the field for you. So you need to put that team now, or at least get in the process of understanding that that's where the future is.
Awesome. Yeah. I've been in that Cavalier, and I will tell you that Cavalier had duct tape keeping the glove box together.
It had the glove box fell open. And it looked like it had been in a drunk guy, I wasn't in the car, hit another car into it. It looked like a monster truck rally. We never caught the guy. And I drove it into the ground because I figured, you know what? There's more important ways that I could be spending my money. And I don't care what people think about me, whatever car I drive. You know what I mean? So it's like people who do that, but it's like I own it. It's true, this girl, she gets it. But, and but the truth is, that's what it is. Your business. You don't owe it to anybody else. You have to remember that. Whatever money you make, that's money that you earned. Whatever you drive, that's the car that you drive. And I'm saying that shouldn't change. What should change is the way that you think and the way that you run your business, that you invest in yourself, not in your car, unless you're an Uber driver. And then, of course, please invest away.
Awesome. So piggybacking on that, Miata, what are some of like the common financial mistakes you see a lot of actors make, or concerns that they come to you with?
I think the biggest mistake that we make, and it isn't just actors, honestly, it's most people, but the biggest financial mistake is that we truly do not know what's happening in our financial lives. Like if I just picked somebody, out of the audience and I asked you to tell me what on average is going out of your household on a monthly basis, I can pretty much guarantee that the vast majority of you would actually be really wrong. And not just a little wrong, you'd be a lot wrong in terms of how much goes out. We have to know that. Like, we have to know that number. And we have to know that number as close to exactly as possible, right? So I think that's the biggest mistake, is that what we say is we say, I'm gonna deal with all this money stuff as soon as I have some, right? Like, I'm going to figure out my team. I'm gonna think about the future as soon as like things are just a little bit better, right? And the thing is that you will handle your money when you have it exactly the way you handled your money when you didn't. Okay, and that's really, really important. So I don't care if right now you feel like you only have like 2 nickels in the bank. You've got to actually be willing to learn to understand your money, to make a plan for whatever it is you have. That way, when the big breaks happen, you handle those well, right?
Yeah. So do you guys have any personal experiences with actors making either bad decisions or good decisions that you've seen that either you've learned from or you've heard about?
Just a note about, can you hear me? You can hear me. Just a note about taxes. I just wanted to make this point. There are a couple of the companies that take out like 13% when they should be taking out like 25%. I personally, because my taxes are a mess and I pay quarterly based on my day job, and then I have W-2 income and I'm married and just all this nonsense, I have like the maximum taken out so that I don't have to pay like 16 grand at the end of the year. You can call or fax or contact any of these payroll companies that you receive a check from, which you should always be getting the stubs from your agents. You should always get those stubs. And you can tell them, this is what I want you to take out. And then even on the tax forms on set, I write 25% this, 5% state. I'm super anal about it. And that has saved me a lot of headache. And I haven't had to come up with a massive amount of money at the end of the year that I did not accommodate for. Just wanted to make that note.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's a problem that a lot of actors are now seeing commercially, that the taxes aren't being taken out correctly because each payroll company,
Talent
like what you were
partners.
saying, Jill, they don't communicate
I
with
said
each other. Has that happened to you personally?
Yeah, before I was a corp, it was a mess, and I'd owe a bunch of money at the end of the year, and I didn't know the numbers to write down.
I just guess based on my freelance stuff, so I just estimate like 30% out.
Is there a
top.
resource that you used that helped you learn how to handle that sort of situation? Or is that something that you heard like from a friend?
My sister was freelance in New York, and I work with a bunch of freelance people now. So she instructed me originally, and then out here, it's like every quarter comes up, and we sort of remind each other, oh, pay your taxes, and we'll generally sort of decide what we're paying. But it's estimated for 1099 income, so you just take a stab in the dark and hope you didn't underpay or overpay by too much. But there isn't an actual resource. You can go to the government websites and it'll help you sort of estimate, but it isn't clear. I personally just go high for myself.
But that's also where the CPA or tax preparer comes in, because as you build a relationship with that person, he or she...
Yes, they gave me forms with the amount after my first year.
Right. And
Basically.
so then, they'll say, okay, based on what happened last year, this is what I suggest you do.
I think the overall feeling is that, for me, for example, like whenever I booked my first commercial, I remember one of my little cousins was like, oh my God, you're on television, you must be a millionaire, right? And that's not true. And also when you start booking, I think that the feeling is, oh, I'm gonna book forever. Like once I book one job, I'm gonna never stop until it does, right? With the amount of I guess the landscape of commercials too, I want to talk about that, how it's changed a lot, right? Before, back in the past, actors, like I've talked to a lot of actors who were doing commercials in the 80s and the 90s, and they were buying homes with one commercial, which is amazing to me to even fathom. I have no idea what that's like. But that's when we had basically 4 networks, and that was it. Now we have a whole array of content providers. How is that changing, I guess, the game, essentially? Can you guys, or the reps, if you guys want to talk about it, have you seen, or how have you seen income, I guess, distributed across the spectrum of commercials?
Well, it's very rare that you hit your MPU nowadays, which is your maximum period of usage of your 21-month SAG commercial contract, okay? And that's because brands and products are changing every day. I mean, I feel like there's a new phone out every week. So you might book a Samsung campaign that'll run for 4 months because the next hot thing is out in 3, right? So, yeah, you aren't guaranteed the duration of your 21-month contract. However, that's fine because then you're not held to that conflict. So then you can turn around and book a competitive brand if you're so lucky. Granted, there's thousands of actors being submitted for these roles, as you know, 3,000 plus, and you see maybe 50, 75 people per role per day?
That's on a good day. On a busy day,
on a good
I
day,
like 200.
right? Okay, so yeah, I mean, slim to none, I mean, are your odds to really booking, because it's out of her hands as a casting director, and as the director, you may love her, and you might say to the client, I need her because it's your artistic vision, but at the end of the day, it comes down to the client. So guys, don't be nervous in front of her, because her job is to put you on tape and send to the client, right? Because it's McDonald's choice at the end of the day, whether or not you're on set or not. So to answer your question, yes, there is a shift. Products and brands are changing constantly. There's a lot of new media and internet out right now. There's a lot of made-for-internet spots out right now where we are trying to, get. When we negotiate those spots, we try to get as much money as possible, especially if they're holding a conflict where it's an industrial tied campaign and they can hold a conflict. Yeah, I mean, you want those national networks, obviously, but again, there's never a guarantee whether or not those are going to run. So, yeah, it's great that your face is all over Hulu, but that's going to be a buyout per the cycle anyway. So, but be cautious, and you want an agent that does become a shark when you get down to negotiations, because there's internet edits that come into play, and you definitely want to have somebody that's going to bat for you when it comes to the amount of edits allotted per the scale session fee that they offer, or if we negotiate a higher rate, whatever that may be. So there's a lot that goes into play that you should be aware of when those negotiations happen. And don't be afraid to ask your representation, guys, this is a made-for-internet spot. What does that mean? Or on my special provisions of the SAG contract, I make all of my actors send me, we've had, I think we had like 5 on set today, and all of them send me their commercial contracts, because these ad agencies and these producers and these clients are trying to, at times, not all of them, there are things called special provisions on your SAG contract where they have to negotiate either at the time of the booking or prior to the booking, which includes radio, print still usage, internet edits for the internet spots. So all of those things are negotiable because print obviously doesn't fall under a union category. So we go to bat for our roster to get you guys a very high quote, or as strong of a number that we can as your resume warrants. But they like to slide those things in. So we always tell our roster, send us a copy of the contract prior to you signing, executing it, and turning it back in, so that we can make sure that you're not being blindsided with, a radio spot that they slide in and you sign off on. Because then once that happens, or you sign a release prematurely, we can't then do anything about it. So,
Jill, did you want to say something?
No thanks.
Okay, I thought you were looking to say something.
I do.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about our clients and them doing commercials, and how I don't pay a lot of attention to it. And I'm sitting there listening to what you're saying, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. I signed from commercials because I saw them in the commercial, and they're both on series now. So I think the real perk is you do a commercial, and people see it, and then they want you, and then they work twice as hard for you, and then you're moving.
I had a manager tell me that in his house, commercials were the C word.
What?
Yeah. So your perspective is at odds with that.
It's worked for me.
That's great.
you guys,
Snickers commercial. I just remembered it. Snickers commercial 4 years ago. The guy's been just killing it.
it's easy to, it's fast money if it runs. It will keep you out of the bar and the nightlife so that you can prolong your theatrical career by investing in Diana's class or Leslie's class or whoever it is that you choose to study with, so that you can not only pay your bills, but I don't think there's any other career. A doctor can't take a side job to pay off his student loans, right? So you guys book these commercials. You're already SAG. Become SAG. I've had huge campaigns, Super Bowl campaigns, celebrity endorsement deals, where then Linda will call from Gray's and say, who is that person that you represent? We want her on our show. Shonda loves her. Or, there's opportunity that arises from your face being all over ABC. So I think they're very right in that aspect of you then becoming recognizable. But financially, if you do get a bite, stay out of being a waiter at night and prolong the longevity of your theatrical career. I've had several actors with that opportunity. They were lucky and fortunate enough for that to have happened to them.
The landscape has changed. I started in commercials 17 years ago, and I bought a house 12 years ago thanks to commercial residuals. I doubt that I could do that today. I'm sure I couldn't afford my garage today. But the fact of the matter is that there is more work now. It just tends to pay less, and some of that is due to usage, and some of that is due to negotiations, and some of that is due to some of it being non-union and just dragging rates down. But it's different.
A couple points that I really want to underscore before we move on is some of the things that you guys have brought up, and that is, if you book a job, make sure you read your check stub when you get paid. Make sure you know how to read your check stub. There is so much information that may seem confusing at first, but get with your friends, come to the union, ask somebody who knows how to read your check stub. Before that, also read your contract. Make sure you know what you're signing when you sign it. Just last week, I shot a commercial for a company, and I ended up shooting 4 commercials that day. And I was only contracted to shoot 1. So what I did when I realized, this feels like 4 different commercials, I emailed the commercials department here at the union, and I explained what happened, and they told me, yeah, you shot 4 commercials. You should be paid 4 times for 1 day. So make sure you guys know what you're signing, and make sure you know what you're doing. And if you ever have any questions, make sure you contact either your agent or the reps here at the union.
Yeah, I can't stress this enough. Become friends with people on the commercial. Because I did a Super Bowl commercial, 7, 8 years ago, and they weren't paying somebody in the spot. And they ran this commercial. It was a Budweiser National. We ran for 5 years, and I had become really good friends with one of the guys in the spot. And they were paying him and not his wife. And so it was only when I was able to share pay stubs with him and he was able to go after them was he able to prove that, and they got all their money in the end of it. But if we hadn't been friends and I hadn't brought it up to him, they would have none of it. And I can tell you this was a national Budweiser commercial they ran for 5 years. And so they would have been, out all of that money. And it was only because we had such a strong friendship that we made on that commercial that day. And listen, the number one thing is today, we're here for each other. None of us is getting paid to be in this room right now. The only way that this whole thing works is if we can learn from each other. And that starts on the day-to-day stuff that you do. So even if it's a small, whatever job, it's a buyout, get to know the people on the job so that you guys can share information.
That happened to me, slightly different story though, but it's good outcome. I shot a spot for out of town, so then you can't help but be friends with everybody because you're together, in a way. And we got back and they wanted to renegotiate it like 2 years later, and they hadn't paid one of the guys. And he texted all of us and he's like, "Did you guys get paid?" And we were like, "Yeah, didn't you?" And he's like, "No." And he was like, "Don't sign the renegotiation until they pay me, and then we need to wait." So we were able to collectively wait, hold out, and then he got what he was owed, and then we all got the next negotiation as well. So there was power together for sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now, can we talk about can we move away from commercials just for a minute and go back to theatrical work? With the advent of streaming, with Hulu, Netflix, Amazon, just the pay difference to what was traditional television on CBS, ABC, NBC, Fox, and also now cable. Can we talk about the differences, I guess, in what an actor can expect when they work a show that's maybe just for streaming? Anybody?
All right, I'll take it. Well, there's variations of that. Okay, so there's there's the traditional low-budget web series that you'll see all over the place. They're basically everywhere. Then you see the more popular shows that are on Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon. The rates are similar. The way I see it, it's a vast landscape, whether it's digital, whether it's traditional, and the way that we look at it is like, it's opportunity is opportunity, and I think that you have more play with getting paid a little bit more money in the digital space, because they're offering low to begin with, so you could kind of get up to the network values, but also on the traditional networks, it really depends on the show's negotiating with the union. So each show has a different top of show rate. Not everyone has the same rate, and I'm not too familiar with co-star rates. I think it's the same thing. Different shows, different networks, they're higher and lower, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So.
And whether you're booked for a daily or a 3-day or.
Right. Right. I mean, there's a day rate.
That's all online. Download the rate sheets.
I think you guys all have rate sheets in your hands, yeah? If you didn't pick up, that reminds me, if you didn't pick up the packets in the front, make sure you grab one before you go home. It's filled with tons of so much important information. I can't even begin to stress it enough. It answers a lot of those nuts and bolts, minutia questions. It's a bunch of numbers and stuff
And
like
these
that.
are minimum rates, not to cut you off, but these are minimum rates of what you have to make.
Right.
Okay?
Right, and you can go up, you can negotiate higher from there. There's also a lot less, what used to be, I guess, weekly or 3-day co-stars, or guest stars, correct? There was an article, I think, that was going around, maybe by Deadline or The Hollywood Reporter, talking about how what used to be the guest star is now the co-star, and what used to be 3 days is now 1 day, right?
No, what it is
Tell me.
is that, I've been doing this a long time, so, you would get booked for a guest star, and you work 1 day, you work 7 days, or you work 8 days, you're getting paid top of show. Now, with so many characters and so many shows, they're going to cram everything into 1 day and give you $1,500. And as a manager and as an agent, we're making 10% of that, and minus taxes, 30% of that, and then gas money, food, stamps, bandwidth. I mean, we make bupkis. And it's hard because, you want to take that opportunity, but yeah, that's what they're doing, is they're going to combine and try to get as much value as they can for as little money as possible. But again, it goes back to what I originally said, work begets work. You do that one for crappy money, and then you're going to get another one for better money, and then you're going to get a 3-day co-star on a great show, or, I had a client, Bones is being canceled. So this is the last year for Bones. So I want all my clients to do Bones and do it for just anything, because it's that mojo, like go do a few days on Bones, get paid, $1,500, but then it's in the atmosphere and you're going to book another job. So it's the same thing. I look at digital and how I don't get angry anymore when it's like, hey, we want to book your client for a guest star and it's, 1 day, and I'm like, and that's what it comes down to.
I think it's part of it is that so Two Broke Girls is shot in front of a live studio audience, and so we have a Wednesday is table read, Thursday is first rehearsal, Friday is second rehearsal, network run through. You learn your lines on Saturday, Sunday. We do all of the studio shots on Monday, and then we live studio tape on Tuesday. So what they do now is they invite people to the table read, and you're not paid for it. So they say, if you'd like to have, the good thing is, Network, Peter Roth, who I love, is the president of Warner Bros. TV. He is at those read-throughs. So if he sees you and he likes you, he might remember you, and he's going to be there. It's not like a mall signing and then it's just a Debbie Gibson lookalike or something. And so what happens is, the good thing about that, though, is things are done, budgets today are smaller, like we were saying with Amazon, Hulu, even, web series and whatnot, and people do things quicker. So it's being done on all levels. That, people, we just had a mutual friend who was on Two Broke Girls this week, who was there Wednesday. He was not paid for Thursday, so he had to learn everything in a truncated amount of time, which we had on Friday. And I'd been there, the rest of the cast, we'd already been there since Thursday. But that's the job now, And so people are doing a lot of run and gun, and just the filmmaking, everything is being truncated. So in a weird way, it's just something as actors, I don't know how many of you are actors and how many of you aren't, that, in terms of like get this experience, but that's just something that you have to learn that in my experience, I've never had to learn before. So it's good to just accept that that's the way it's gonna be, and you just don't have as much rehearsal time. The good news is there's more opportunities, like all the streaming, like all of these things, web series and whatnot, and cable, so there's more opportunities. But just know that when you're there, even if you're hired for the week, you're probably only gonna get paid for 2 days, and you're going to be expected as if you were there for the week. We have extras that do our show that have incredible amount of business to do when we had a hospital scene. And we spent 2 hours of a 4-hour rehearsal day working with these extras because they needed to do it. So every actor, we only had 2 hours to learn something before the network comes in. And at the end of the day, that's the job now. The definition of the job has just changed. What they're asking of you is the same, but the given circumstances are, they're just asking it in less time. And so what's important to know is like, accept it, that you have to go to the mountain. The mountain's not gonna come to the man. And once you accept that, like our friend, who's an exceptionally gifted mercurial actor, I said, just so you know, you won't be here Thursday. And he goes, well, how am I gonna figure this out? And I literally said to him, you'll figure it out. And he did, and he was awesome. We taped the show last night with him, super funny. They actually wrote him into a second scene, but he had that heads up. And so just so you know, if you do that type of stuff for 5 camera, they're working on a truncated budget in half days sometimes. And even if your agent tells you he thought he was gonna be there the whole week. And he had half day Friday, and then the day we shot. And that's it. So just, that now. People don't know that. And so now you can prepare yourself, because that's just what the given circumstances are now. Now, I don't think the work suffers. I think that we've had people on the show who kind of freak out about it, and then they give so much energy to the idea that it wasn't the thing that they thought of, instead of just accepting it, well, this is now my reality. Move forward with that. But I think that that's, in my opinion, just the best thing to do.
So, obviously, thank you. That was very enlightening. So obviously, like as actors, we all have hustles. We have side gigs. Johnny and I both have waited tables in our lives. Are you guys, or any of you, doing anything besides acting to help supply your income?
No.
I describe commercials as my day job to afford my acting habit. I love commercials. I love them a ton, and but my experience has not been that someone has seen me in a commercial and wanted to make me a series regular in their show. So in some ways it became a distraction. However, it's a nice revenue stream for me to be able to go on TV and film auditions and get paid much less to do those roles than I would a day on a commercial. I also have always had a side job, always. And I teach commercial acting, and I consult with clients and students who are trying to get into the business of commercials. I have business cards if anyone wants to come up afterwards and talk about this. But that allows me to give back and also have something steady that we live on, and then everything I earn from acting is on top of that. But every successful working actor that I know who is not famous has something that they do in addition to their acting to earn money.
I do stand-up comedy, and I didn't do it when I was on Two Broke Girls. There was a summer lull, and we couldn't take other jobs because of contract conflicts. And at the end of the day, this is a performer's medium right now with all of the, accessibility to cameras and whatnot that we have. And I realized that I hadn't written before. And so I just made it a point to, when I was done rehearsing or performing for the day, to go up as many times during the week as I could. And that was important to me because it felt more in control. Because you never know, like even if you're on a hit show, especially now, you don't know if they're gonna renew the contract. But to kind of always have that and be creating my own stuff and my own voice, I think helped me when I was really stressed out with the show and gave me an outlet just to have in my life. And I actually spent this summer denying all acting jobs, and I went on the road and I shot my first stand-up special. And the thing was, at the end of the day, I paid for it myself, and somebody asked me, do you hope you sell the special? And I said, I don't care. I said, for me, it was enough to do it, and it was something that was cathartic and really like a special experience for me. But I think it's opened a lot of doors for me to write that I never thought of before doing stand-up.
What were you doing those first few years when you moved out to LA from Illinois? Were you doing other side jobs as well when you were auditioning?
I got a commercial agent almost immediately. And then I worked at Cheesecake Factory at the Galleria for like 5 years, and I would try to do that at night shift and go out and audition as many times as I could commercially during the day. I was very lucky. I had a great agent that believed in me and tried to get me out for as many things as I possibly could.
We talked about that in the other room, right? You know, I always, when I'm meeting people, my first question to them, and I'm trying not to be insulting about it, is how do you make a living? You know, because I believe that you need to have this this support. So in case you're auditioning, but you do have something that's making the ends meet. And I was talking to a client just recently, and I said, how's it going? I mean, you're going out a lot, but you're not booking. I mean, are you okay? And she said, well, I don't want to tell anybody, but I have a side job. And I was like, that's great. I totally support that. And I asked her, and I said, well, what is it? And she said, well, me and a lot of good-looking girls go out and sell chemicals. And I was like, I don't understand. I mean, are you like portable meth labs? Because I didn't understand. And she was telling me about it, and she said a lot of actors that she knows, they sell industrial chemicals to gas stations, the city, Department of Water and Power, and you do it whenever you want, and it gives you're not stressed. So when you're auditioning or when you have to run around, you could do that and still be focused and connected to the work that you're trying to do. And I was trying to find something really, funny to say to her, but I didn't want to knock it down. And I was like, okay, cool. I mean, if I know anyone who needs chemicals, it's great. But I do ask that question, and a lot of my clients always say, I make a living off commercials, and that keeps me going. But I also am an artist. I am also make jewelry. I am a Reiki expert, and I'm like all for it. So I support that, and I think it's important that everyone has that, so you're not stressed in the room, so you could go and deliver the kind of stuff that he delivers, because then you're focused on that moment.
Don't quit your day job. Just don't until you're forced to, and then you'll still find something else to do.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I'm crazy passionate about, and I could really get on a bandwagon, but I believe so strongly, first of all, that our job as actors is to be full and complete human beings. We've got to bring our whole selves into the room. And that means that you need to be being a full and complete human being out in the world. There are many ways that each of us have that we can be of service in this world, that we can make a difference. And I think that it's really important to find those ways. There is no one who can tell me when I will make a full-time living as an actor. There's absolutely no one who can tell me that. And if they say that they can tell me that, they're lying. And if and when I am making my full-time living as an actor, there is no one who can guarantee that that will be forever, right? And so the only question that I can answer is if it takes 5 years, if it takes 10 years, if it takes 20 years, will I still be here? And the answer for me is an absolute resounding yes, I will still be here. So what you need to answer for yourself is, will you still be here? And the only way that you can guarantee you will still be here is if you figure out how to financially sustain. That is your biggest job if you would like to be able to follow your dream and your goals forever. So,
well said.
Yeah.
I am a session director at 200 South. That is my day job. I am hired by casting directors, and I direct the actors in their commercial auditions. I've done that for 6 years, and I love it. And I don't feel desperate when I go into a room because I know that I'll be able to eat, even if I don't book that job.
Right.
So what I do is a little thing called TaskRabbit. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of it. The problem that I've had as an actor waiting tables when I first moved to Los Angeles is that they always say when you're interviewing, oh, we love actors. It's Los Angeles, right? We hire actors all the time, but they don't expect you to work, right? You're just another dime a dozen. And they say they'll be very flexible with you in your schedule. And it always turns out that they're not flexible with their schedule, right? So I always had first of all, I always got fired. Because I would have an audition or I would book something and they'd be like, well, it's either selling pizza or it's going to that audition. And so I'd always have to choose, you'd have to choose the audition, right? So a friend of mine had told me about TaskRabbit. If you guys don't know what it is, and if you're looking for a gig on the side, I can't recommend it enough. What it is you're basically like a freelancer. You can do all sorts of different jobs, whether it's delivering something for somebody, painting somebody's house, putting IKEA furniture together for somebody. Last week I spent 7 days inside of an RV, painting it. I have PTSD because of it. But I do have to say, what it gives you is flexibility. It gives you scheduling flexibility. And if you don't know about it yet, you should check it out if you're looking for something to do. You set your own hours, you set your own rates, and you get to meet a lot of interesting people along the way. But if you are looking for something to do to supplant your income, please check it out. I mean, I'm just trying to help you guys out because somebody helped me, and it really has been a lifesaver because, again, another thing that I want to underscore is even if you do book commercials, even if you book the commercial, you won't know how much you're going to make, right? Like, some commercials I've earned a good amount of money. Other commercials I've earned nothing. So you just never know. Being an actor is tough. It's unpredictable. But that toughness and that unpredictability can be handled if you're smart. And that's hopefully what we've tried to get across tonight. Just a couple more questions really quick. When do you quit your day job? Do you quit your day job?
Never really. You just take breaks, I think. Sometimes you have to. You're too busy. There was a cam op that I worked with for years, and he would take a session, and then he would constantly have to get covers or give away half the day or give away the whole day, and it became too stressful to work as a camera operator because he was booking too much work and had too many auditions.
I think that's a really good way to gauge it is when am I acting so much that my day job is getting in the way. Yeah. Do you all know that you are eligible for unemployment when you have an acting job end? That job you were not fired from, but that job ended, and then based on that, you can submit a claim to the state. I don't know if that's something that's ever...
No, I mean, I
auditions.
go on unemployment whenever I book a job. The one thing that people feel a little weird about it sometimes, and I understand there's some stigma to it. I had a producer on a commercial say, well, this is great, you booked the job, now you can go on unemployment. And I was like, well, what are you talking about? He goes, well, we have to pay unemployment insurance. You are using your unemployment, right? They pay for the unemployment. It's there to help you. They're paying the insurance. So, I mean, if you are in dire straits or if you don't have any other means, unemployment is there. It's insurance. It's unemployment insurance. So when you do book a commercial or if you do book a theatrical job, the producers are paying for that insurance for you then to use. And I think oftentimes it can go for a year or something. What is it? 26 weeks or whatever it is. I'm sorry, I don't know all the scientific facts about it. But yes, Jill, you're absolutely right. That's another benefit to working, yeah.
And when you're on it, going to auditions counts as seeking employment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking for auditions, right? Let's see.
Just on the job front, on the side job front, this is a place where I do really want to make sure that if you don't know about the Actors Fund, you really should know about the Actors Fund. Like, I think that it's one of those organizations that I can't believe how long I was in this town and didn't know they existed. And I also think that some of us who have heard of it think, oh, that's the place I go when I can't pay my rent, right? And that is not true. Like, the Actors Fund is an unbelievable resource that is here for everyone in entertainment, completely free. All of the programs are completely free, and they have a career center. And that career center, its purpose is to help those of us who want to continue working in this industry but need to find sideline work to support it. That's what they're there for. I mean, they're also there for people who want to transition out of the industry. But again, I think that some of us think, oh, I go there when I've decided to quit and become a nurse. And that's not what they're there for. So I really, really encourage you to take advantage.
I've only been really involved with the union for basically 12 months exactly. And prior to my involvement, I had no idea all the programs that were available to us members. And one of the most eye-opening things that I found is just how much there is available at our fingertips if we choose to use it. Like tonight, you guys have done that in being here, which is incredible. And I hope that it doesn't just stop after you walk out those doors. I hope you keep getting involved, keep getting informed, because knowledge is power, right? And the union provides a lot of great programs for actors. Obviously, they can't get you a job, but they can give you the resources to be the best actor that you can and also help when you need it. The Actors Fund, I think also, say you're struggling to pay your bills. I think if you qualify, they're able to help you pay your bills. And I don't know if that's something that a lot of people know about. So I hope that, well, first of all, I say thank you for being here. And I hope that also you don't stop coming and getting involved and finding out more.